In the previous video, we already broke down the ending of Mortal Kombat 2, but now we're zooming in on one of the most emotional and theory-filled parts of the entire movie, Kung Lao. He died in the first film, returned as a revenant in the second film, and then died again at the hands of Liu Kang. But here's the real question. Is this actually the end for Kung Lao? Or is Mortal Kombat setting up one of the biggest resurrection arcs in the franchise? Well, in Mortal Kombat, nobody stays dead forever. Back in the first Mortal Kombat movie from 2021, Kung Lao suffered one of the most tragic deaths in the film. Shang Tsung literally absorbed his soul completely. At that moment, most fans assumed Kung Lao was gone forever, finished, and dead. But then, Mortal Kombat 2 surprised everybody by bringing him back. Except, he wasn't really back. Because this version of Kung Lao was no longer human. He returned as Revenant Kung Lao, a corrupted, undead warrior controlled by dark magic. His eyes were dark, his personality was gone, and everything that made him Kung Lao had basically been erased. The movie reveals that Quan Chi resurrected him under Shao Kahn's orders, transforming him into a weapon for Outworld. And honestly, this version of Kung Lao is terrifying. He fights with pure aggression, almost like a machine designed only for killing. But the emotional core of this storyline comes from one thing, Liu Kang. Because throughout the movie, Liu Kang desperately tries to save his brother, and eventually, the two are forced into a brutal final confrontation. And this fight hurts emotionally, because Liu Kang clearly does not want to kill him. But in the end, Liu Kang realizes there's no other choice, and he finishes Kung Lao using one of the most brutal fatalities in the movie, a spinning buzzsaw hat attack that completely destroys Revenant Kung Lao in front of the audience. It's savage, but also heartbreaking, and right before everything ends, Liu Kang promises something incredibly important. He says, "I will save you."
That line changes everything. Because later in the ending, Liu Kang seemingly ascends into a higher form and enters the Netherrealm for a rescue mission. At the same time, the Earthrealm warriors capture Quan Chi alive, and suddenly, the possibility of resurrection becomes very real. Because remember, Quan Chi is not just another villain. He is basically the ultimate necromancer in Mortal Kombat lore, which brings us to the biggest theory surrounding Kung Lao's future. The most likely explanation for Kung Lao's resurrection is simple. Quan Chi and Liu Kang together are the key. Let's start with Quan Chi first. At the end of the movie, he's captured alive by Earthrealm, and that detail feels extremely intentional, because Quan Chi's entire specialty is death magic, soul manipulation, and resurrection. In Mortal Kombat lore, he's responsible for creating revenants in the first place, so the Earthrealm team could easily force him to help restore fallen champions like Jax, Kung Lao, or maybe even Cole Young. Whether through threats, bargains, or magical coercion, Quan Chi might become the unwilling tool that brings everyone back. And honestly, this would perfectly match the games, because even when Quan Chi is a villain, characters constantly end up using his magic for their own survival. We know Liu Kang's biggest guilt in the movies is failing to protect his brother. So giving him a redemption arc where he saves Kung Lao instead of killing him permanently, that feels exactly like the kind of emotional payoff Mortal Kombat would go for. There's also another interesting theory involving Shinnok's amulet. Even though the amulet was destroyed during the climax of Mortal Kombat 2, dark magic energy doesn't just disappear in Mortal Kombat lore. Some fans believe the remaining energy from the amulet could still be used for resurrection ritual. Others think Shang Tsung's soul magic might still contain fragments of Kung Lao's original soul, since Shang Tsung was the one who absorbed it in the first movie. And honestly, this theory sounds very possible in a franchise where souls, timelines, and resurrection magic are basically everyday occurrences. Now, let's talk about some of the other popular fan theory. One major theory suggests Kung Lao could return as a revenant again first, before eventually being purified later by Raiden or Liu Kang. This would mirror the games almost perfectly, because in the Mortal Kombat games, revenants often stay corrupted for years before finally being restored. Another theory is even darker. Some fans think the Revenant version we saw in Mortal Kombat 2 might not even contain the real Kung Lao soul completely. Instead, Quan Chi may have created an artificial copy using dark magic, while the true Kung Lao spirit remains trapped somewhere deep in the Netherrealm. And honestly, that would explain why Revenant Kung Lao felt so emotionally empty throughout most of the movie. Then there's the darkest theory of all. What if Kung Lao does come back, but he's traumatized permanently? Because this guy's surviving soul corruption, death, and resurrection multiple times. He could easily return more violent, unstable, or emotionally broken than before. Maybe even becoming an anti-hero temporarily, instead of a pure Earthrealm champion. And honestly, that would make his relationship with Liu Kang even more tragic and complex moving forward. Now, here's the really important part. The entire Revenant concept in the movie is not new. This comes directly from the Mortal Kombat games themselves, especially Mortal Kombat 9, Mortal Kombat X, and Mortal Kombat 11. In the game lore, Quan Chi creates Revenants using dark Netherrealm magic, and the process is terrifying. First, the warrior dies, then their soul gets captured. Then Quan Chi creates a corrupted undead body connected to that soul. The Revenants still remember pieces of their past lives, which is exactly what makes them so tragic. They're basically trapped inside their own bodies, while serving evil forces against their will. And many iconic characters became Revenants in the games. Kung Lao, Liu Kang, Kitana, Jade, Sindel, Smoke, Jax. Almost everybody eventually got corrupted at some point. And just like in the movies, restoring them usually required breaking Quan Chi's control or using holy energy from Raiden.
That's why fans are so confident Kung Lao will eventually return. Because Mortal Kombat has spent decades teaching players one simple rule. Death is never truly permanent. Even Ed Boon himself has joked multiple times that in Mortal Kombat, nobody stays dead forever. Which means the movies are actually being very faithful to the games by killing major characters while still leaving the door wide open for resurrection later. Now looking ahead toward Mortal Kombat 3, Kung Lao could return fully human again, but stronger because of his experiences as a Revenant. His bond with Liu Kang could become much deeper emotionally after everything they went through together. And honestly, there's a strong chance Kung Lao won't be the only one resurrected. Jax could return, Cole Young could return, maybe even other fallen warriors too. But there's also a huge danger here, because if Quan Chi escapes, he could easily create an entire army of Revenants, and that could become the setup for a full-scale realm war in future movies. Imagine dozens of corrupted fighters attacking Earthrealm under Netherrealm control. That would be absolutely insane. So overall, Kung Lao's death in Mortal Kombat 2 probably isn't the end of his story at all. If anything, it feels more like the beginning of a much larger and more emotional character arc. With Quan Chi captured and Liu Kang ascending into a godlike role, the chances of Kung Lao returning are extremely high, maybe even guaranteed. And honestly, this is one of Mortal Kombat's greatest strengths as a franchise. Death always has consequences, characters suffer, sacrifices matter, but there's always hope for resurrection. Just like in the games, the movies use Revenants to create emotional drama, darker storylines, and brutal fights, while still leaving the possibility for redemption and comeback stories later. But now I want to hear your theories, combatants. Do you want Kung Lao to return as a normal human again, or should he stay a Revenant for a while longer first? Maybe you even have a crazier theory than this one. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed the lore breakdown. Subscribe to Mr. Fandom Lore and turn on notifications so you never miss future theories about upcoming movies. And bye.
Freedom that we were given.